And a good spiritual morning to you once again. I'm Father Cosmas.
I'm Pres Michelle.
Thanks for joining us today for a quick chat. And of course, our morning cup of coffee.
Good morning, everybody. We hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks for being with us. Yeah,
we're going a little minimalist today. She's got the black cup and I've got just the steel cup in honor of Mike Tyson, because Mike Tyson, when he fought, was all about the minimalism. It was about the raw, sort of brutal anger of what he did. He'd come in with that ominous music. He would wear, no socks, the black shorts, the towel, just the towel over him. Nothing, not even a robe, nothing fancy.
Such arrogance.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the Mike Tyson fight today. Kind of. More about how we can apply that or, learn something from it in our spiritual life. So first and foremost, if you don't know, I don't know how you wouldn't have heard
it's all over. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Tyson fought Jake Paul. So I asked people, did you watch the Tyson fight? And like, who did he fight? Who is this guy? So Jake Paul, obviously, is a YouTuber. He's an online personality.
He's young.
He's a young guy. He's in his late 20s, right? Was he 28?
Yeah,
27,
I believe so.
28. And he does these kind of exhibition fights for fun. So he's a YouTuber. He trains and he fights people. He's fought a lot of people. He's a good fighter. He does very well. Not a professional boxer. He's kind of a YouTuber that's kind of turned brawler, basically. And so, of course, they set up an exhibition fight with Mike Tyson, who's pushing 60 now. I think he's 58. Mm-hmm. And that was this past Friday.
And you'll laugh and say, Prez, why are you having Father do a video with you about the Mike Tyson fight? I watched the fight. Our sons had been interested in it. We have Netflix, and I won't make you laugh, but I did fall asleep towards the end of it.
Okay. I did not watch the fight.
No, you were otherwise engaged.
I was working. I was doing something at church, so I could not watch it.
But let's talk about Tyson.
Let's talk about it because they had this fight, and it got us thinking about this idea. So Jake Paul wins by decision. No one was knocked out. Mm-hmm. Of course, they made quite a bit of money doing this. And you watched the fight. People that watched the fight said Mike Tyson kind of looked his age.
He did. His legs looked a little weak. He was really trying to just kind of dance and maintain his strength throughout without getting knocked out.
Sure, and I think what we're talking about is a little bit of the wisdom of age and maybe discernment, right? The ability to make good decisions, but let's say in the spiritual life.
In the other arena.
Right, in the spiritual warfare arena, not the MMA or boxing arena, but in the spiritual arena, our ability to make good decisions and grow as people with age. Because we were talking about this, and I said, Mike Tyson in his 20s would have gone in there and tried to knock this guy's head off, right? You know how he would go in and sometimes within the first minute would knock people out. We remember watching those fights back in the 80s. He would go in and just kill somebody in a few seconds. Well, he didn't have to do that. There was no need for him. So at 58, you're thinking, well, wait a minute now. I don't want to get knocked out, right? I don't want to get hurt. First and foremost, we're both in our 50s. Yes. I don't know how he's older than us.
Yeah.
I don't know how in your late 50s. I'm just trying to think about how you recover from fighting 8 rounds of boxing, right? I mean, that's something. When you're in your 50s, if you bend down the wrong way, you throw your back out.
Or if you hit your knee on the car door.
Right. You got to ice it, and it's going to take you 3 days to recover. As you get older, right? I sneeze and throw my back out. Yeah. So in your 50s to think, first of all, he went 8 rounds. They were, 2-minute rounds?
Yeah.
So he's thinking, okay, I don't need to go kill this guy. Right? What do I need? I need to not get hurt. Stay standing. Don't get hurt. Right. The first thing is don't get hurt. The next thing is I don't want to get embarrassed. So I don't want to be knocked out. If I go at this guy and he gets off a lucky punch because I didn't see coming and I get knocked out. Now I got knocked out by this YouTuber. That's embarrassing. So first, don't get hurt. Don't get knocked out.
Okay.
So what should I do? Well, just move around and dance.
He did.
Throw some punches. Take some punches. You're there because of your name. And just don't get knocked out. So you lose by decision, you win by decision. Who cares?
Get paid.
$20 million?
Was it? He got 20 for that?
He got 20. I think Jake Paul got 40.
Which I don't know how that works, but yeah.
Well, I'm just saying $20 million to just, I understand he could have really gotten hurt. Maybe he did get his bell rung a little bit from taking some punches. But so this idea of how he acted in his 20s versus now how he's acting close to 60, very different frame of reference.
So I'm trying to learn from that, right?
There's discernment there.
All right, let's
There's
figure that out.
discernment in the spiritual life. So say, okay, why did you go to church when you were 28? when you were 27, or in your 20s, why did you go to church? Why do you go to church at 60? Those are probably not the same.
We're praying for very different things.
Yeah, they're probably not the same reasons, right? Number one, people don't go to church in their 20s. No. So the answer would have been, well, Father, I probably didn't go to church that much when I was 25. But at 65, yeah, I'm going. Mm. So we kind of grow a little bit. We gain some wisdom to sort of say, well, what's important in life? The important thing in his 20s was, I got to go take this guy's head off. I got to knock him out because Mike Tyson knocks people out. I've got to build my brand. I've got to be able to get more fights. In his 60s, he's thinking, well, I just want to have some fun. I want to challenge. I want to make $20 million. I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want to get embarrassed. So it's a very different way of looking at
and we go through those 40 years, let's say 30 years, between our 20s and our 60s as Orthodox Christians. There's a lot of life in there.
Right.
So when I'm in my 20s, I'm coming either because I was just raised that way or because I'm praying for, what am I praying for? A job, a spouse, my parents, my grandparents. Like, it's very limited.
Right.
And then when I'm in my 60s, I've been through things, and the discernment comes from realizing what do I value? What's more important on my prayer list? What's moved up to number one?
Right. Things shift in order.
They shift. Yep.
Constantly.
Every decade.
Every decade. Right. Yeah. I mean, you weren't necessarily praying for your kids when you're in your 20s, most likely. Although we were, because we had kids in our 20s. We're weirdos.
We were praying for sleep.
Yeah, you were praying for sleep. Well, so that's a common denominator, because I'm in my 50s and I'm still praying for sleep. And
can I please sleep through the
I'm
night?
not getting it. I was up at 4 this morning, and so it's the same thing.
But the discernment, what do you think as we get older? How are we changing in our focus?
Well, I think it's prioritizing.
Okay.
Based on different things. So hopefully, as you're going to church in your 50s and 60s and beyond, now it's, now why am I going? Hopefully you're not going for the same reasons you were in your 20s. So it's, because you're supposed to. Because I learned, and that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. That's my routine. You're supposed to. My parents taught me that, so I just do it because you're supposed to do it. Yeah. Which isn't bad, but it could be a little bit better with a clearer, more lucid way of thinking about it. That's one. Number two, it's my social life.
Yes.
So I want to go because I want to see my friends. That kids, especially young kids, go because you want to see your friends. Yeah. That was your chance to see your friends on Sunday. So you would do that. So for socializing, because you're supposed to. But hopefully in your 50s and 60s and beyond, you kind of start saying, well, I want salvation in Christ. I go because I want to get closer to Christ, because I want to be saved and be with Christ forever, right? You're not really thinking about forever in your 20s, right? You don't have that frame of reference. In your 20s, you're Mike Tyson. You're invincible, right? You're going to go in the ring and knock the guy's head off. You're invincible in your 20s. You don't think about death. You don't think about losing. In your 60s, you're starting to get a little bit closer in your 50s and 60s to say, okay, I can kind of know, I know the finish line is there. I might even be seeing it. I feel like I can see it physically.
Or we just feel, like you said, got more days behind us than ahead of us.
You're not going to live to be 120, most of us. So you kind of realize, okay, I'm a little over the top of the hill. I'm on my way down now. And I'm wondering, how am I going to finish the race? And what's going to happen afterwards? So I think it's important for us to realize, if you're younger and you're going to church, why are you going? And you try to go for the right reasons. And it's not just about socializing and seeing friends, or because your mom and dad told you had to go.
Right.
You're going because you've made the decision to go for yourself, because you want to have a relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
As you get a little bit older, those of us that are, and that's most people in church, if you look around in church and you say, what's the average age of the people in the pews?
It leans older rather than younger.
It's not going to be 28, right? It's 68. It's going to be a little bit up there.
And there's a lot of wisdom in those pews. And there's a lot of life experiences, unfortunately, good and bad.
But I think also, hopefully, those of us that are in that group, we're going because we want salvation. And I'm saying that word because we don't use that word a lot in the Orthodox Church. I mean, theologically we do, the saints do. It's part and parcel of our spiritual life. But in parish life, in everyday life, we don't use it too much. We don't think about it too much. And it's kind of been co-opted from us by other denominations, talking about being saved and having and finding salvation.
We don't talk like that.
But that's ultimately for Christians what we want. We want to be with Christ forever. And that's the process of finding salvation, of having salvation. That's kind of why we go.
That's our
church.
Worship. Okay.
Ultimately, you're going to church to worship. You're going to church to get close and have a relationship with Christ, to receive Holy Communion, hopefully. And that's building your salvation. That's getting you closer and closer so that you can be with him forever. That's kind of why. So bringing it back a little bit, full circle, it's sort of thinking about if we would ever use the word wisdom when in reference to Mike Tyson, which you can. Obviously, the guy has said some.
It's a metaphor.
If you watch some interviews with him, he has said some pretty profound things.
Okay.
Right. What's that one quote? I'm trying to remember now. We didn't talk about it off the top of my head.
Right.
He says something about when I think I'm somebody.
Oh yeah.
Right. When I think I'm somebody, then I get upset. And I'm paraphrasing badly because I don't remember it. He was in an interview. When I think I'm somebody, then I get upset and I can get offended. When I remember I'm nobody, then I don't have any problems.
You're talking about when people talk at him or people comment about him and
right,
he thinks he's somebody, then he gets all puffy and prickly.
But the wisdom in sort of realizing the guy didn't go in there and think, I'm Mike Tyson. I gotta knock this guy's head off. I've got to try to murder him in the first 40 seconds.
Right.
Why would I have to do that? I've got nothing to prove. I would rather not get hurt and not get embarrassed and just take my nice check and say, thank you for the $20 million. Now I'm going to go spend 3 months recovering from this and, and be okay. And I think there's wisdom in the spiritual life to saying, okay, I'm doing this for the right reasons, whether I'm praying, whether I'm fasting, whether I'm reading. I'm not doing it because I have to or I'm supposed to. I'm doing it for the right reasons and to be aware of the right reason, which is ultimately it's my relationship with Christ. It's salvation in Christ. I'm doing it because I love Christ, I love God, and I want to be with him forever. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that should be motivating us.
I like it. I think that's really interesting that if you take the discernment and the wisdom of those of us who are, like you said, have more days behind us, through each experience in my life, what have I realized, good and bad, that God has my back and that God is there to walk with me. So if I can keep that as my focus, then that's why I go to church. That's why I make the decisions I make. That's the discernment I'm making, is that I can do this with Christ to be with him forever.
Right.
And I've got to stay focused on that.
That's
and I'm not invincible.
That's got to be what is driving us.
I'm not 20. Yeah.
Yeah. And to have and you know what? And that's okay. Yeah. We've got to also come to terms with the fact of saying, hey, it's okay. I'm not 28 anymore. And I'm at this point in my life, and there's blessings at being at that point. And one of them is discernment and wisdom, and sort of saying, okay, I see the real goal here that I didn't see in my 20s. I wasn't even thinking about it in my 20s, but I see the real goal. And like you said, that real goal is for me to orient my whole life so that I'm getting closer and closer to Christ and doing that each and every day.
Amen.